Hello, everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I have got to tell you, my heart has been just fluttering with anticipation over what is happening in Port Charles lately. Goodness gracious, if you had told me a year ago that our very own mob boss, Sonny Corinthos, would be trying to turn over a new leaf, I might have told you that you were barking up the wrong tree. But here we are, looking at the week of August 17th through the 21st, and the winds of change are blowing through town like a strong autumn breeze. I am just so excited to share my thoughts on this because watching Sonny navigate this brand new chapter of his life feels like watching a completely different man. It is a bold, beautiful, and incredibly complicated mess, and I am hanging on to every single moment of it. To really understand what is going on in Sonny's head right now, I think we have to look back at what happened just a few weeks ago in July. Remember when Jason Morgan finally came home to us? Oh, my heart just ached with joy when Jason returned. But he came back a changed man. After all that time away and all that trauma, Jason made the heavy choice to step away from the dangerous underworld to focus on his family. I truly believe that seeing his closest friend, his absolute right-hand man, walk away from the mob planted a seed in Sonny's heart. It is like Sonny looked at Jason and realized that life is just too short and too precious to spend it constantly looking over your shoulder. Now, Sonny is trying to follow in Jason's footsteps, and I have to say, it brings tears to my eyes to see him finally reaching for a peaceful life. But going straight is not as easy as simply flipping a switch, especially not for a man who has run the streets of Port Charles for decades. I find myself worrying about him, honestly. He is embarking on this monumental journey to leave the mob behind, and he is doing it the only way Sonny knows how, which is by taking the bull by the horns. He has been making his rounds, sitting down with the people he trusts to lay out his grand plan. It takes a lot of courage to admit you want to change your ways, especially at his age, and I just want to reach through the screen and give him a big, comforting hug. He is trying so hard to rewrite his legacy, not just for himself, but for the people he loves. One of the most fascinating parts of this whole transition is who Sonny is turning to for help. I was absolutely tickled pink to see him sitting down with his brother Rick Lansing. Now, we all know Sonny and Rick have had a relationship that is as bumpy as a country dirt road. They have fought, they have betrayed each other, and they have caused each other so much heartache over the years. But at the end of the day, blood is thicker than water. Seeing them put their heads together to map out a legal strategy for Sonny to exit the organized crime world is just deeply moving. Rick has a brilliant legal mind, and Sonny needs that kind of smart, sharp protection right now. It feels like a true healing moment for their family, and I am just so hopeful that they can keep this brotherly bond strong. And speaking of matters of the heart, we simply must talk about the romance that is blooming between Sonny and the acting district attorney, Justine Turner. Oh my goodness, I am just swooning over these two. There is something so incredibly romantic, yet so terribly dangerous, about a mob boss falling for a woman who represents the law. I watch them together and my heart just melts. Sonny has actually confided in Justine about his plans to leave the mob, which shows a level of trust that we rarely see from him. He is opening up his soul to her, and you can just feel the deep, sincere connection they share. It is the kind of love story that keeps you on the edge of your seat, praying that everything works out for them. However, I cannot help but fret over poor Justine. Bless her heart, she is walking a tightrope without a safety net. Even though Sonny is trying to walk the straight and narrow now, there is no statute of limitations on the things he has done in his past. Justine is a woman of the law, and she is risking her entire career, her reputation, and her livelihood to be with him. They are keeping their romance under wraps for now, and I completely understand why. The last thing Sonny wants is to drag this beautiful, intelligent woman down with him if his past comes back to haunt him. I just admire her so much for seeing the good in him, for looking past the dark rumors and loving the man underneath it all. It takes a very special, very brave woman to love Sonny Corinthos. As if that was not enough to keep my head spinning, Sonny is also making amends and finding common ground with Anna Devane. Now, Anna has been going through her own terrible, dark struggles lately, wrestling with her past and those awful visions of Peter August. But seeing Sonny and Anna sit down together is like watching two old war veterans sharing war stories. They both know what it is like to live in the shadows, to make impossible choices, and to carry the weight of the world on their shoulders. Sonny sharing his plans to go legitimate with Anna feels like a profound moment of mutual respect. I just love seeing these two iconic figures treating each other with such dignity. It gives me hope that maybe, just maybe, they can both find the peace they so desperately deserve. Now, let us get into the real meat and potatoes of Sonny's plan, because this is where things get incredibly juicy. To truly legitimize his life and his business, Sonny needs to acquire some clean, legal assets. And where is he looking? He has his eyes set on the assets of none other than Jen Sidwell. These properties and holdings are going up for auction, and Sonny needs them to build a solid, legal foundation for his new life. It is a brilliant strategy, really. He wants to take something that belonged to a criminal and turn it into a legitimate enterprise. But as we all know, nothing in Port Charles ever goes off without a hitch, and Sonny is facing some incredibly stiff competition. I almost gasped out loud when I realized who else was going to be bidding at this auction. First, we have Drew Kane. Now, Drew has been through the ringer lately, slowly recovering his mobility and dealing with all that family drama involving Willow and the Quartermains. I think Drew is looking at Sidwell's assets as a way to reassert himself, to prove that he is back and stronger than ever. Drew is a smart, driven man, and he has the financial backing to give Sonny a real run for his money. I feel a little torn, honestly, because I want to see Drew succeed after everything he has suffered, but I also desperately want Sonny to win this auction so he can finally leave the mob behind. It is like having to choose between two of your favorite children. And if dealing with Drew was not enough of a headache, Sonny also has to worry about Valentine Cassadine. Oh, Valentine. He is as cunning as a fox and twice as smooth. Valentine is always playing three-dimensional chess while everyone else is playing checkers. He has been so distracted lately with Carly and trying to figure out what is wrong with Anna, but you can never, ever count a Cassadine out of a business deal. Valentine has deep pockets and a ruthless streak, and he would love nothing more than to snatch those assets right out from under Sonny's nose. The tension between these three powerful men is going to be thick enough to cut with a butter knife, and I am just waiting with bated breath to see who comes out on top. So, how does Sonny plan to outsmart Drew and Valentine? Well, this is where my jaw just about hit the floor. Sonny decides to march right into Pentonville Prison to have a face-to-face chat with Jen Sidwell himself. Can you even imagine the nerve of that man? The promotional clips for this week show Sonny walking into that stark, depressing visiting room, looking sharp as a tack, while Sidwell is sitting there in his drab beige prison jumpsuit. Sonny even makes a little quip about how beige is just not Sidwell's color. I had to chuckle at that, even though my stomach was tied in knots. It is classic Sonny, always cool, confident, and completely in control, even when he is walking straight into the lion's den. I have to admit I was holding my breath during this entire prison scene. The history between Sonny and Sidwell is darker than a moonless night. These two men were locked in a bitter, dangerous feud that shook Port Charles to its core. And let us not forget the most important detail of all, which is that Sonny is the very reason Sidwell is sitting behind bars in the first place. So for Sonny to walk in there and ask for a favor, it takes a level of boldness that I simply cannot fathom. I just kept thinking, why on earth would Sidwell ever lift a finger to help the man who ruined his life? It seems completely impossible, but then again, Sonny always has an ace up his sleeve. And what a brilliant, daring ace it is. As Justine pointed out to us, Sonny still has a tremendous amount of power and influence on the inside of that prison system. Life in Pentonville is no walk in the park, especially for a man like Sidwell. So Sonny offers him the ultimate deal. He promises to use his deep-rooted connections to make Sidwell absolutely untouchable on the inside. In exchange, Sidwell has to give Sonny the inside scoop, the secret details on how to win that upcoming auction for his assets. It is a devil's bargain, plain and simple. Sonny is offering the gift of safety and comfort in a place where those things are priceless. I was just sitting there, shaking my head in pure amazement at the sheer genius of it all. The big question now is, will Sidwell swallow his pride and take the deal? I have been tossing and turning in my bed just thinking about it. On one hand, the hatred Sidwell feels for Sonny must burn like a hot coal. But on the other hand, a man's survival instinct is a powerful thing. If I were in his shoes, wearing that awful beige jumpsuit and looking over my shoulder every single minute of the day, I might just take the deal too. It is going to take a miracle for these two bitter enemies to shake hands, but if anyone can pull off a miracle, it is Sonny Corinthos. I am so incredibly invested in this story, and I simply cannot wait to see how this bold gamble plays out. Thank you so much for letting me share my thoughts with you today, and I just know we are going to have so much more to talk about next time.